Good afternoon, my name is Maria Venegas, and today I'm going to talk to you about illegal immigration and its effect on the United States economy. In 1986, the government of the United States granted permanent residence to legal immigrants who lived in the United States continuously since 1982. The people from the country were waiting for the amnesty to have either of these two effects. One of them was regain control of the border, and the other one was attract vast additional waves of immigration. One of them was positive and the other one was negative. Some of the fears which were felt when this law was approved were the displacement of American illegal resident workers and the depressed wages and working conditions. But these fears were almost vanished when unexpected immigration effects took place. The creation of new jobs, the demand for goods, and the increase of the national wealth were some of the changes which happened that helped the economy of the country at that time. My major claim is that if the United States government grants legal residence to the 12 million illegal residents living in the United States today, it will boost the economy. The United States is currently going through a difficult time. Increased unemployment rates and budget cuts are affecting the country as a whole. If the government of the United States grants a pathway to legalize the status of these 12 million undocumented residents, there will be some positive effects. One of them will be the creation of new jobs. Another one will be the demand for goods and services, which will stimulate the business activity. The third one will be the increase in national wealth. And the fourth will be that later on people will not be affected or displaced from their jobs and their working conditions. Going back to my secondary claim, during the 1970s in California, heavy immigration stimulated economic growth and significant job creation. During this time, 52,000 new jobs were created. Today, a new study conducted at the Common Foundation confirmed that 500 out of 100,000 legal immigrants starting a business each month, when only 280 native-born workers starting a business. This study leads us to conclude that the more new businesses, the more new job openings for everyone. On my secondary claim, illegal immigrants demand public services such as transportation, schools, fire, and police protection. They also tend to form part of large families, which means that they spend more money to sustain them. And my third secondary claim is that immigrants with higher employment rates and lower dependency levels pay more in taxes than they receive in public services. If they pay more in taxes than they receive in government benefits, then immigration generates a net fiscal transfer to native taxpayers. During the 1970s in California, the study documents the considerable cost as well as the benefits to the state. 1.8 immigrants, out of them 1 million were Mexican, and out of that total, 60% were illegal. And in this study, and during the 1980s and the 1990s, U.S. cities with large inflows of low-skilled immigrants experienced larger reductions in prices for housekeeping, gardening, childcare, dry cleaning, and other labor-intensive self-administrative services. These lower services raise the real incomes of U.S. households. Illegal immigration accomplishes what legal immigration does not. It moves large numbers of those skilled workers from a low productivity to high productivity environment. Today, a new study conducted by UCLA Associate Professor Raul Hinojosa determined that the legalization of these 12 million immigrants in the United States will increase the gross income of the country by 1.5 trillion in the next 10 years. My fourth and final secondary claim is that native-born people will not be affected or displaced in their jobs and their working conditions. In 1986, the Council of Economic Advisors released the following report. Studies that take a broad view of the labor market have found no significant evidence of unemployment among native-born workers attributable to immigration. Any direct effects of immigration on domestic employment have either been too small to measure or have been quickly dissipated with job mobility. During the 1970s in California, there was no unemployment and immigrants did not compete directly with native born workers. Illegal immigrants usually take the secondary jobs, or which usually handle like the dirty, dangerous, low-wage jobs run by native workers. In conclusion, if the United States has already shown that providing a pathway to legalize these people had some positive effects, why not do it again?
All right, Maria, the topics identified, you give us a little bit of background information. You do clearly state your proposition, but at the end of the speech you kind of shift your proposition and it turns into a policy claim. So at the start I thought you had a claim of fact, but at the end you kind of make it a claim of policy. You lay out what the structure is going to be. The secondary claims in the original preview are not phrased as claims. They're just kind of signposted phrases there, and you want declarative statements on those points. The subject's probably pretty controversial. You should talk a little bit about what the current proposals are so that we have a context for the argument. Signposting, as you went through the speech, is pretty clear. There's a lot of description on a couple of the points and not a lot of evidence. The first point is basically supported by a single piece of evidence, and the third point doesn't have any. Oh, no, excuse me, this is the second point that doesn't have any evidence on it whatsoever. Your third point, I thought you had a good study on that you made a reference to. You could probably get a little bit more out of it. I think you should develop those points a little bit more. The fourth point, you seem very dependent on conclusions of a study done back in 1986, and I'm not exactly sure that that's as useful to you as something that would be a little bit more contemporary. The presentation is a little difficult because you have a quiet voice, you drop your voice sometimes, and we got this blower going off in the room here, and so I lost what you were saying a few times because it's just, you know, outside of the range of my hearing. All right, thank you. Yeah.